really wonderful to see 8:30 in the morning, all of you seated like this. For me, it reminds me of my school days. I don't know how it is. Um, well, I've been told to speak about motivation and stuff, but I'll just talk about my journey in sport. It's almost 33 years of continuously playing sport from a time when I never knew that I would be playing sport for how long. So, my father worked in a bank, so we were kind of traveling in my childhood quite a bit. I started off in Orissa. I was in Raigada for the first few years of my life. And then I was in Chennai for 3 years. And then I was in Prakasham, Ongole for a few years. And then I came to Hyderabad when I was in the 6th class. Initially, I went out to play, and normally around 83, 84, the very sport which was being played was only cricket. And after the World Cup win of 83, all of us wanted to play cricket. I was also among that batch. So we would play cricket if somebody with the owner of the bat came, the owner of the ball came. So I would play cricket, and that's what sport was. Life was about school, and then you go back and play cricket. My parents one day decided that we should make him play something because my neighbors complained. They said he is breaking the window panes of the apartment. So they complained a couple of times. And then finally parents decided that was this fellow, let us take him to the stadium and let him play something there itself, because he's anyway always playing. Luckily, we were staying close to this Lal Bahadur Stadium in Hyderabad. I went to join for cricket. And fortunately, unfortunately, cricket was full. So I didn't have any other push. So they rejected me. So I went to play. The next possible sport was tennis, because at that point of time, tennis was famous. We used to have the Wimbledon being watched, Australian Open being watched on television. So I went to join for tennis, and apparently my parents decided against it because they thought that there were too many cars parked outside. So they came out and said, looks like a rich man's sport. So then I went to the badminton court. There was this big Pathan coach called Hamid Hussain sir. I asked him, sir, I want to play. The courts were empty. He said, are you sure? Because nobody at that point of time wanted to play badminton. And that's how I joined badminton. That's the reality, really. So, years later, when I won the All England, there was one very prominent newspaper clipping which actually said that the day I picked up the racket, I dreamt of becoming an All England champion. And that was a very important day and lesson in my life, that you should never trust the press. Because for me, I started playing back then. AP then had never produced a national champion. So today we talk about the names, right? We talk about Saina, Sindhu, Srikanth, Pranoy, or all of the names, whether Kashyap, Guru, Sikki, Sumit. There are a bunch of them who come from Hyderabad and Telangana and Andhra. But back then, there was not a single national champion from there. So we used to go out for tournaments. Intra first show na, morning show na, matinee na. That was what the joke was. Whether you lost in the morning show is the first day's first session, or the second session, which is matinee, or first day first show, which is the evening show. The joke among the AP team and the other teams which were there was that we would carry one pair of playing clothes and 4 pairs of casual clothes, because anyway we had to play only one match. So that is how weak the team was. So for me to even dream of becoming a national champion, I don't remember any dream, but if I dreamt also, I don't think even a national champion would have been a dream which I could think of. maybe I would have thought of becoming a state champion. That's all, because our vision was also limited to that our ability. But for me, somehow, every day I would go, and I don't know how, why, what, but the strong intuition came somewhere very early in my playing days, that if I work hard, harder than my competition, I'll do better than them. That simple thought came very early. So my friends, I used to have 3 more friends, 4 more actually, who joined in the same summer coaching camp as I joined. And they used to come at 6 o'clock in the morning. Somehow I realized, every day if I practice the same as them, how will I beat them? So they would come up at 6 o'clock, I would come 15 minutes early. They would come at 5:45, I'll come 15 minutes early. I said, I need to work harder than my competition. And they would stay till 7:30, I would stay till 7:45. That's how I thought about working harder than the competition. Somehow after a couple of years, I won the district championships, beat the 4 of them, went to the state championships in Vijayawada. And I realized that there were 4 more like this from different parts of this state. But the principle of hard work remained the same. And then I went to the nationals, and I realized that the principle of hard work remained the same there. The 4 people had changed, but the principle of hard work remained the same. And typically when I went to my first international event, that thought lingered, that the principle of hard work remains the same. You need to work harder than your competition. And that drove me in my initial years very much. And somehow I went from district to state to nationals, and nationals to the internationals. Things weren't as smooth as I say, because school was tough. To manage academics and sport was tough. The family was also tough. I was very fortunate that my parents really supported. And also adding to that fact, what made things more complicated at home was my brother went to IIT. So for me, it was a big challenge there. So I also was on the footsteps. So I wrote my engineering exam. I was doing maths, physics, and chemistry. I wrote the engineering exam. Luckily, I failed. And I got this year to play badminton in my life. And this was the first year of my graduation. My parents said, okay, if you do well, meaning if you represent the country, get a job, then you can continue playing sport. That year, I went on to win the junior nationals in the year 1991. I played my first international. And more importantly, my mother applied to all corporates in the country when I turned 18. And I got my first job in Tata Steel in 1991. And that was truly the beginning of my badminton career. Because without that job and without that security, probably if I hadn't performed, if I hadn't got the job, I would have gone on, maybe wrote another engineering exam entrance, or probably they would have managed to figure out a way to pay some donation. But I was destined to, in a way, do my engineering. Luckily, I got this thing. And that's when the journey of badminton had truly started for me. This was 1991. We went for my first international event. And this is where I think things for India were very important, because before us, Prakash sir had won the All England in 1980. And somehow after 1980, nobody had even reached the quarterfinals of an All England Championships. And somehow the connect between Prakash sir and our group was not there. Although he won, we never thought that we could replicate anything like that. So the government sent us for our first international event. This was in Malaysia. It's a series of tournaments, the Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore. We still continue to have those tournaments as a super series. Back then, they were called the major ranking events. So we were sent as one of the first groups to those tournaments. It was a group of about 18 people, and I was the youngest of them. And all of us had lost in our typical fashion, first day morning show or first show. So by first day evening, all of us had packed up and we were having dinner in the hotel room. In that room, everybody was praising about how good the Chinese were, how high they were jumping, how strong their legs were, and how hard they are hitting, and how the Denmark guys, how the Indonesians, Malaysians are so good, and how it is not possible to do this from our country. I was the youngest of the lot. I just got up and said, "Kya baat kar rahe ho? Main jeet ke dikhaunga." Suddenly, everybody pounced on me. I said, "बच्चा है, बहुत उछक रहा है, 2-4 बार हार जाएगा, अपने आप सुधर जाएगा." I walked out of the room saying that मैं जीत के दिखाऊंगा. And if I'm really proud of something, it's the fact that after multiple challenges and innumerable losses, 12 years down the line when I finished my career, I had the kid in me alive. And that for me is something which I'm really proud of. Things didn't come out easy. The transition wasn't easy. I was playing. I was the best men's singles player in the country. I was almost the best men's doubles player in the country. And we were playing the national games in '93 in Pune. And I was moving sideways. My partner was moving, I was moving backwards. My partner was moving sideways. I didn't see him coming. I went like this. He came from the other side. Both of us collided in the air. He landed on my leg and I twisted my knee and had an anterior cruciate ligament of my left leg torn. And for badminton, the knee is a very critical thing. And for us, an ACL tear in badminton before me, nobody has had and recovered from that. And it almost seemed as though it was the end of my career. I had reached the finals of the national games. I was supposed to play that in the evening. And this was the semi-finals, which was in the morning of the doubles. And it almost took me 6 months to start walking and running. And it took me about a year to kind of play. In between, I lost to a lot of players whom I had won very comfortable with. And I really struggled to get back. Almost, this was in the year 94 Jan. And I had another surgery again. I came back, won the nationals in 95, but went to Scotland to play the World Championships, had twisted my left knee again, came back to India, had another surgery in the year 1996, and started winning again. I beat Alan Budi Kusuma, who was the All England champion of 92, the Olympic champion of 92, beat the 96 Olympic champion, Paul-Erik Høyer Larsen. But still I came back again in 98, had another fall again, and had another surgery on my left knee. So back to back, I had 94, 96, and 98, 3 surgeries. So every time I would go up, I would come down, I would go up, come down, go up, come down. It was kind of a very tough period of my life. Luckily, between the years 1998 and 2002, I didn't have any major surgery again. And that's when I got my Commonwealth or the Asian Championships or the All England Championships in 2001. So somewhere, the resolve to stay positive is very, very important. To keep the kid in you alive, who at the first instance of failure doesn't take it as final, is very, very critical. So the 2 instances which had happened, one I narrated to you, which happened in Hotel Emerald, where I was the youngest of the lot, and I said that मैं जीत के दिखाऊंगा. Now in the year 1997, things had reversed. I finished 2 surgeries and I was injured again, and I was sitting together with a group of team of younger players now. I was the oldest member of the team now. Things had reversed. And I was telling them how it is possible to beat the Chinese and the Indonesians and Malaysians. One of the youngest kids in the group got up and said, भैया आप तो हर बार बोलते हो कि हम लोग जीतेंगे, आपका तो घुटना 3 बार गया, मेरा नहीं लगता है कि हम लोग का कुछ हो पाएगा, आप तो ऐसा ही बोल रहे हो. I don't know for what reason, I didn't argue that back, but I just packed up my bags and went out to train differently, away from people, and got the best results of my life when I did that. Sometimes it's very, very important to stay positive no matter what. If you can change the environment, it's better. If you can't, you change your environment. But it's very important that you stay positive all the time. The kid in you is very, very critical. Another perspective which changed is very important. For all my life, I was thinking that I will compete against my competition and win. And this is all I learned very early. It paid great dividends. But somewhere after my injuries, things changed for me. I was reading a lot. I was spending a lot of time contemplating. And then slowly, suddenly, somewhere in between, the thought came that it doesn't matter to me what my competition is. All it matters for me is to be the best of what I can be. And that changed a lot of things. And that singular thought just put me in such a beautiful frame of mind. Because now I wasn't looking over my shoulder to see what my competition is doing. Because otherwise I would keep on asking, keep on spying. What is the other guy doing? How much weight is the Chinese guy lifting? How fast is he running? What's his timing for 400 meters? What's his timing for 10 kilometers? What's his squat weight? I'm always spying, trying to find out what they're doing. Or internally, I would be kind of fearing competition. But the day I made this thing in my mind, I enjoyed the journey far more. I was a lot more relaxed. It didn't bother to me what my competition was doing. I had great friends whom I created because I would work with them. I would say, come, let's push each other. And come on, let's push. So I had started to have friends in my competition. And then the whole atmosphere for me changed because the thought was that if I am the best of what I can be, that's good enough. I don't have to worry about the competition. Strangely, and so clearly now, that was the only way I could be world class. Because competing can only make you little better than competition. But to be truly world class, all you need to do is to compete against yourself and be the best of what you can be. And that for me was such a revelation because it just gave me such clarity within me. So such a very important thing. The other thing which was very important, and there were 2-3 lessons which I had learned, and I was very fortunate all my life to have these great coaches who were there. I started off with Hamid Hussain sir. And today, whatever coaching I do is thanks to their inputs which I've got. And God's grace has been so much that He just put such beautiful people in my life. I had Hamid Hussain sir, who was my first coach. He never taught me how to play badminton. Truly, he never really said, this is the way you hold the grip, this is the way you hit. Nothing. But he made me love the sport. He made me come to the stadium and feel happy about it. He used to call me Chuva Idara because I was really the smallest guy in the group. And he would give me a shuttle. When we used to go for tournaments, all he gave was a hug and a kiss. And we were so motivated by it. And that's all he did. But that's so good of him, in the sense, when I see young kids, I want to be like how he was to me. Because all he did was, for me, I would jump up. If I had 10 minutes, I wanted to go to the stadium. And that is the environment which he created for me. The second was Arif Saab. He was like epitome of discipline. And he was so very fantastic. So he was like, you can fix your watch timing as per when it comes. Because he would come at 6 o'clock and he would definitely land, traffic, rain, water, it doesn't matter. Between 5:58 and 6, he will definitely be coming. And that's how he was. Super disciplined. And that's how I wanted to. I was very fortunate that I had a champion like Prakash Sir. Without him, I don't think I could have had going near, thought of going to win the Olympics. Thanks to him, that we Indians could at least believe that you could win something like the Olympics. And his nature is something which was so inspiring. And then the final years, I worked with a coach called Ganguly Prasad. And to be a great friend and a great team together, that's what I learned from him. So I've been really fortunate that I had such beautiful people. And also worked with 2 Chinese coaches who came in the year 91 to 92. We had a Chinese coach, Wang Xiaomin. And in 97, 98, 99, I was playing for a club in Germany. And I used to play 3 months of the year there. And I had a coach called Su Yan. And what Su Yan told me was very, very good. I lost the Dutch Open. This was in September. Cold country. My knee was hurting. Surgeries were done. I was in pain. I lost the match. I'm crying, sobbing. He called my friend Oliver Pongratz. And he said, translate it for Gopi. And what he said was, it's no matter how hard you fall or how many times you fall, but it's how quickly you get up each time is all that matters. And for me, that advice was super important. And that's all it mattered. So when the next time, because there's always doubts, right? So you have once injury, then every time you jump and land, then you're like, will it happen again? Because the feeling of your knee twisting is really bad. And then you kind of, next time you jump, again it's in the back of your mind. But then 2 people really helped me, apart from my parents and coaches. It was my doctor, Ashok Rajgopal. I remember him telling me, Gopi, if you fall down 32 times, I will do your surgery then. But don't worry about it, go ahead and play. And my coach Su Yan, who actually said, it's not how hard you fall or how many times you fall, it's how quickly you get up each time which matters. So these were 2 great advisors which really kept me going, because I was not bothered. Because people would tell this to you, that Gopi, why don't you play doubles? Why don't you retire? Why don't you play a toss drop game? Why don't you have to jump and dive and maybe you get injured? I think I want to play sport in my terms. And it's very important, because what gives me happiness, I can't lose that. So that is how this experience was. There's another instance which was very important for me in my learnings, which was the All England Championship win. For all of us who play sport, the Olympics is the biggest tournament we have. And for me also, it was very important. Unfortunately, it comes once in 4 years. So you're lucky. For the first, in 96, I wasn't ready. I was injured. I wasn't ready. I couldn't participate. In 2000, I was about 27, 28, and then by then, you kind of are saying this probably is the last Olympic chance I have, and you want to do the best of what you can. So for me, in all my years of playing the sport and my injuries, I somehow was into yoga, visualization, meditation, and everywhere it was written that if you visualize it, it will happen. And I said, boss, this is my best chance at the Olympics. I'll visualize it. So for 6 months, I lived like a real monk. I was in Sai Kengeri, away from civilization in a way. Every Sunday, I would come up, make a call to my parents, go back and stay at the campus. 4 o'clock in the morning, I would get up, do my breathing exercises, my yoga, my meditation, my visualization, and have sessions at 6 to 9, then come have breakfast, then go back again and train till 12, rest for a little while, go from 4 o'clock till 7 o'clock, come eat dinner and sleep. This is a simple routine which I had for 6 months prior to the Olympics, believing that I'm going to win the Olympics. And I would close my eyes and I had this beautiful memory, beautiful visualization which I was doing where the Olympic medal is coming on to me. I go to the Olympics in Sydney believing that I'm going to win this medal in Sydney, 2000. I play my first match, long match, played somebody called Ladislav Dushenko, who's kind of like, say, the Nadal of tennis, rally player, and I beat him on fitness. Super arrogant that I am super fit and I cannot lose on fitness to anybody. You might be one of the best guys, but I'm better than you. And I just purely beat him on fitness. In a 3-hour match, 3-game match, I outlasted him to win that match on rallies. I come back thinking this is my chance and I'm looking super good. This match finished at around 11 o'clock, had lunch, slept, got up at 4 o'clock, and suddenly my body was really tired. Every part of my body started to ache, especially the behind body, whether it's my back, my hips, my hamstrings, calf, everything was hurting. Almost even if I touched, it started to hurt, even the tricep. I didn't know what hit me. And after 3 brufens that day, 3 massages that day, the next day I got up with 102 temperature and a ball of, like a golf ball behind my knee. I didn't know what hit me. On introspection and going and looking at surfaces and talking to players, I realized that the structure which was built for the Olympics was a concrete structure and a temporary one. And the flooring which they had was cemented. And my knee just reacted the other way. I was not used to playing on concrete surfaces. And many players had complained, but the Olympics, my Olympic story was finished. I lost the next round pretty easily against a player whom I normally would have won, who I have beaten before and after the Olympics. I lost the Olympics. And of course, in the year 2002, this was in 2000, in 2002, BWF banned all cement court floorings. And from then on, it was not there. But the loss for me was done. And I lost the Olympics. For the next 3 months of my life, these were the toughest moments in my life. I was moving around like a zombie. I would walk, close my eyes, sit in the car, sit in the bus, close my eyes, and I would still visualize myself winning the medal and the medal being given to you. Almost to the point that I would slap myself and say, come on, it's not happening. Come on, get up, get over it. All of this doesn't work. And then I move on. And a few months later, I go to the All England because I decided that I would never have any expectation in my life. And I go to the All England and without any expectations, I play the All England and I win the All England. Probably it's not when you want it, it happens. But when you deserve it, it happens. And the visualization which I thought was for the Olympics was actually the visualization which was for the Olympics. The book Alchemist talks about it. If you really want it, nature conspires to give it to you. And I truly believe that it is a statement which is 100% true, but it doesn't come when you want it. It doesn't come when you want it. It comes when you deserve it. It doesn't come when you're expecting it. The unexpected is bound to happen. The expected might never happen. So I think it's very important to push through the period of darkness. Stay on the journey long enough and make it a point to be the best of yourself. And that's something which I believe is surely going to work. For me, that thing really changed a lot of things and perspectives in my life. In the year 2002, I had my surgery, another surgery this time on my right knee, because over the years, knowingly, unknowingly, I used my left knee a lot, left leg a lot, and the pressure on my right knee was too much. It just got worn out. And it was an overuse injury surgery which I had in 2002, which never really recovered. And by 2003, I was into coaching on and off. And in the year 2004, I officially started to coach. Not because of anything. I know nothing in my life other than badminton. I would go to the stadium and I wanted to play. I would check my left knee if it was okay. I would check my right knee if it was okay. And if both were okay, I would play. If one was hurting, I would coach. And slowly the days when I started to play became lesser, and the days when I started to coach became more. And I was playing and coaching together till the time I played a tournament in 2004. I was playing and coaching, and I played some of the players whom I coached. And that day was really a bunch of mixed emotions. The player in me was super competitive. He wanted to win. The coach in me was super competitive. He wanted my opponent to win or my player to win. So that day I won the tournament, but I didn't enjoy the win. That day I said it's enough. Every day I played, I almost felt as though I was cutting short the careers of my players. So I decided to stop playing and started to coach. This was in the year April 13th, 2004. Officially, I started to coach on a daily basis. And the oldest of the group was Kashyap, who was the Commonwealth Games champion of 2014. And in that group, we had players like Saina, who was about 13, Guru Saidat, who was 11, Sai Praneeth, Sikki Reddy, Sumit Reddy. And the youngest of that group was Sindhu at 10 years old. And for me, I think years from now, from where we started off in 1991, where it is, we want to beat the Chinese as a young kid, I think that got fulfilled in the year 2016, when we had Saina and Srikanth win the China Open, and we went to China and we won the China Open, and that is something which was fulfilling. But over the years, We've had many medals and a lot of things. But I think somewhere it's been, to say truly, I think it's been supreme God's grace, because there have been a lot of challenges I went through in setting up the academy and getting the funding. But I think wherever I pushed, and wherever I thought it wasn't possible for me to push any further, God has sent somebody to help me out at that point in time. I think this has been my journey, and I'll be happy to take some questions if you have, so that we can talk about it. Thank you very much.
Question is, in some way, when you say how to make steely resolve to oneself and the internal, tug of war that you play with yourself, that's at one side. But when you're coaching young people, how do you infuse that sense of resolve, not just resolve, but steely resolve to win against the best? What's your formula there? If you can share that, it would be great.
People talk about confidence, killer instinct, mental strength. For me, your preparation is what gives you confidence. Your strength on the physical level is what gives you confidence. And it is for a reason that it comes. Because every day you have this small challenge of getting up at 5 in the morning. You overcome that. It's almost like I see confidence as a bucket. You just put a drop into that. You have to run your 5 kilometers every day, and you finish that every day. That's a drop which you put in. You have to lift a 50 kgs. You put another drop into it. And the more of those small challenges, it could be things like there is desert kept, there is food which is kept. The moment you restrain from it and move out and say, I won't do this because this is not good for me, you've overcome the small challenges. You put another small drop into that bucket of confidence. So all of these small drops is what gives you the strength in terms of confidence. And that is what makes you win at the end of it. Because as much as we want to believe that sport is about winning, I think there's a subtle difference. Because eventually, the people who win play the sport. They have a little bit of fun in the sport. Because wanting to win and motivation are good to have in preparation. But when you go on court, you have to be that kid in you alive. You have to have that lightness about it. It is possible to lose. It's okay to lose. I will get another chance, is what is important. Because I should not fail, I have to win. And that fervor actually brings you down, because you're not able to make the right decision. Because the right decision comes when your preparation and intent is 100%, but on court you have the kid in you alive to think smartly, and that is very important. So for me, success is how many times you fail and get up the next day morning and say, I am going to be enthusiastic again. I've learned from my mistakes. I will be smarter in my preparations, and I will get at it again. The people who are most successful are the ones who don't get bored of doing the same thing over and over again. The idea is to go from failure to failure to failure with enthusiasm. And if anything, we have to prepare for failure. It might sound a little strange, but that's the truth. Because you don't know when success will come. There are more likely chances that you will fail. But to be ready to bounce back after each failure is what success is about. And it's not long term. It's today. It's now. Because when you walk up, you don't know where the last mile is. You're running a marathon, you don't know where it is coming. You have to take the step forward. And somewhere, it's very, very, very important that you love what you do. You have passion for what you do. And then the journey is not burden. Then you don't work, you just play. And that is very important. So for me, confidence is somewhere love, passion, and it's okay to fail. But I will come back again even if I fail. I will get up even if I fall. And that for me is confidence. With that resolve, you will never fail. You will always come back strong. Thank you. There's one more. I think many of you are leaders, parents. For all my life, I would look at people and say, okay, this group, this group, this group, this group. I look at people and say, where's the talent? Where's the talent? And that's a typical tendency. We look at people and say, where is the talent? But somewhere, and there are a bunch of reasons for it, maybe it might be a little long to go through it. Okay. I was training this young kid, he's 13 years old. It's a summer coaching camp. All I had a bunch of shuttles in my hand. I would throw the shuttle. She would have to catch it and throw it back. That's a simple exercise which she had. So I threw her the shuttle to catch. She fumbled and it fell down. And I said, be more alert. And I threw another one. She fumbled and it fell down. I said, forget it. And I walked off because there were 50 other kids and I didn't want to waste time. She came back after the class and she said, sir, teach me how to catch. I'm sitting there, I'm standing there and she's in front of me. She straight face came up to me. Sir, can you teach me how to catch? I had tears in my eyes. I didn't know what hit me. I said, what am I doing? We are expecting people to be of a certain level. We are taking things for granted about people which we are not sure of. So that instance actually made me introspect a lot more. If I had 10 kids, and think of sport, right? I'll probably talk another element of sport. We all look at sport as very big, very important, very good. And we say sports gives confidence. And I've gone to lectures and said sports gives confidence. You see sports person are confident, super fantastic. You have 10 people playing sport. You do a competition saying team sport builds confidence. 10 people play a sport. One person wins. Who gets confident? What about the rest 9 of them? So, is the statement sports builds confidence perfectly right? It's a question mark. So, it started to make me question these fundamental philosophies about sport itself. You have your own kids are 10 of them. You have a family with 10 kids. You're a father of 10 kids. And then do you want one kid to be confident and the rest 9 to be not confident? Is that a model which you look for? One kid who walks like this and the rest of them are shriveled? No. We want all of them to be confident. So I think somewhere the word talent identification has to be changed, and the word to look for is talent mapping. The moment we say and move the word from talent identification to talent mapping, now the onus is on the parent. The onus is on the team leader of the team to find where his talent is and where I put him. But to believe that every kid, every child is talented, and every leader believes that his team, everyone is talented. I think that fundamental shift is very important. To be a team, a group, this is very important. We cannot take things for granted. And we are looking at it from a very unidimensional sense. He's playing badminton. Is he good in badminton? Satvik Sairaj, who's one of the best prospects in doubles, years ago came up and said, I want to play badminton. And I said, it's good you move to doubles. And he said, sir, doubles. I said, no, you try doubles. Srikanth came up years ago saying, I want to play doubles. And I said, you move to singles. So somewhere you map that and put it there. But maybe somebody comes up now, and I've been not so, in my entire life, I didn't think this way, except for the last 3 years. When a group comes up and says, I'm telling them, are you good for badminton or not good for badminton? But I think it's such a wrong thing to do, to look at people with a singular view and say, you are not good. It's my duty to tell you where you are good and to explore those possibilities and put you in a place where you start to enjoy and you start to contribute to it. So somebody is not good at programming, maybe he's good at HR, maybe it's good at something else, maybe he's good at something else. It's the company, it's the leader, it's the CEO, it's the chairman. It's our duty to ensure that we find places to motivate people to put them in those places. It's not whether you know, it's not the numbers on the marking. It's like, it's not evaluation from a perspective of numbers, 1, 2, 3. Are you good? Scale of 1, 2, 3. Are you good? How many hours have you put in? 20 hours, 24 hours. But maybe, are you motivated to do it? Are you loving what you do? Can you challenge yourself to do it in a better environment, in a challenging environment? The questions we ask in appraisal probably need to be looked at differently. Are you loving your work? Are you motivated to come to work? Are you loving your work? Are you challenging yourself to take up bigger challenges? I think somewhere that perspective for me was very, very important. We've looked at life, just think of it, no? We've looked at life and it's why sport. And I look at sport very differently now from what I looked at all my 30 years of my life. From 85 to 2015, I looked at it in one direction. Today, I look at it very differently. For the last 30 years, I was looking at sport and saying, where is the talent? Where is the talent? Where is the talent? And then in 2015, after this girl hit me in a way, it just looked and introspected a lot more. We've looked at literacy. India is a great, in terms of literacy, we've moved scale of literacy has gone up. If words, alphabets, words, sentences, grammar was sequentially alphabetical learning, if numbers, addition, subtractions, multiplications, was, 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 numerical literacy, then probably crawling, walking, running, throwing, jumping, sliding, diving, this would be physical literacy. For many of us in my age group, nature was there to take care of us physically. We grew up, and I was fortunate to grow up climbing trees, jumping over puddles. In the village, I spent time. I could jump into a pond. I've lived my life. But imagine a kid growing up today. He is alphabetically literate? Yes. Numerically literate? Yes. Digitally literate? Yes. Physically literate? No. So for us to grow, first comes physical literacy. Then comes alphabetical and numerical literacy. In our last few years of growth, literacy meant what it means only on an alphabetical and a numerical sense. But we've lost on physical literacy. It's time to regain it back. How many kids who are living in apartments have run full-fledged, have jumped, have thrown a ball far enough? How can a kid who cannot even grow physically know the limits of his physical boundary and aim high, aim long, run fast, run long? How can these kids' mind grow and vision something? So for me today, every kid in class being physically literate is paramount. It doesn't happen in a normal ecosystem. We have to have a new thinking. And that is very important. Typical thinking is 50 people in class. Let's do competition. And when we do competition, 5 will play basketball, volleyball, cricket, football, everything. The rest 45 are left out. The experience of the last person in class is what is most critical. Because maybe you can live your life happily without knowing biology, chemistry, physics. But you cannot live your life if you are failing in a physical literacy. So today my thinking is very different. And I was a little confused. I was like, in 2016, I was like almost 15. I just forget. I said, every kid is important. I will work with each of them to be physically literate. And I was taking equal care of all of them. And then my Olympic preparation was a mess. And then for a few months, in fact, my mother spoke down to me and said, what are you doing? My mother comes to the academy. She said, what are you doing? Why are you spending so much time with all of the kids? You need to focus on getting the results. And then, of course, we did the Olympics. And then the country united to celebrate the medal of Sindhu. And the pride which that medal got was phenomenal. So I was confused the other side, now I was confused this side. Finally, a statement of J.R.D. Tata made my life a lot easier. He said, for a nation to prosper, it is not enough if we eradicate poverty. It only happens when the talented of the lot are given an opportunity to prosper and be the best in the world. And for me today, when I look at this entire paradigm, I look at sport, kids, everybody should be physically literate. The talented of them get an opportunity to be playing at the best levels in the world. And then all of us need to play sport for life. And I'm saying sport in a broader sense, it not necessarily organized sport, but it would mean things like dance, bhangra, adventure, walking, any physical activity. I would consider it as being physically fit. I think we need to start enjoying, because mind-body connects when you interact with the outside world with the physical body. So it's very important to do that. We had Aurobindo talk about it as physical culture. The mother talks about it. In Aurobindo and the mother, both of them spoke about it. Our ancient yogis, Hatha yogas, are about that. And I think our entire ecosystem of the previous generations was like that. So I think we need to look at it as well. I think I can go on this because this is something which I'm passionate about, but I think we have spent some time. For me, we don't know what the next step is. We don't know how far we can go. But all we need to do is be the best of what we can be today. And losses will come. Be prepared for losses. Be enthusiastic about them. How I will bounce back. Because years from now, when you're successful, you will have a story to tell. And that story is very important. It's very inspiring to tell that story. I think, thank you all very much. It's been really nice.
Such an inspirational speech. I think our leaders are all young and they can actually relate all your narrations, I think, and they can take away a lot of lessons from your inspirational talk. So, especially the talks on loving whatever you do, possibly that was very inspiring. And talking about discipline, the entire team would take those things from you. Thank you very much for this inspirational talks. A small moment from our Green Co team, leadership team.